Hey y'all, this is Sierra, and as promised, I told you all that I was going to show you some of the people in my life that played an important role after my diagnosis. So before and after my diagnosis. So today, you all, I'm gonna let you all know that this is my sister.
Hello, everybody.
This is my older sister. Now, you all don't see too much of her on my channel. You see my mother a little bit more. She is my older sister, and she played a very, very important role in my journey with MS. She's actually the first one to take me to my doctor's appointment because my mother was unavailable. My father, he was working at the time, he was unavailable, so she was the only one. And from that day or when she took me in, it's kind of been a journey ever since. So I will have my sister to introduce herself.
Okay. Well, hello, everyone. Like Sierra said, I'm her older sister. My name is Mandesia.
Okay, you all, so we're just going to get straight into it. I'm going to ask my sister how she felt after hearing my diagnosis. So, Mandesia, after I was diagnosed with multiple sclerosis, how did you feel?
Well, I was shocked. I really was shocked, but I was in some ways relieved that we actually found out what was going on with you.
And how did you find out?
I found out because Mom had actually given me a phone call.
Okay.
And she had let me know that, that was the diagnosis that they made for you. I know prior to that, I had taken Sierra to a couple of her neurologist appointments. The first appointment was an initial appointment with the provider. She did a series of assessments in office with Sierra, and then based on those assessments turned out to be abnormal. That there was discussion about sending Sierra for an MRI, which they went ahead and did, and I took her to that appointment as well. So, once those results came back in, Mother, she was the one that actually called me and let me know that Sierra had been diagnosed with MS. So with that, she decided to go ahead and refer Sierra to one of the neurologists in the office that actually specializes with patients who have MS. So she was referred to that provider, and she also met with him and everything. Of course, the assessments again came back abnormal. Now, at the time, I was in school studying to get a master's degree in a health-related field, a nurse practitioner. And so at that time, we were learning about different conditions affecting certain systems of the body. With everything that Sierra was experiencing, her symptoms and stuff, one of the things that I suspected, but I was hoping it wasn't, was MS. I know by the time that she was diagnosed, my sister was having difficulties being able to walk. She was just very unsteady. She could barely put one foot in front of the other. That's how bad it was. I'll never forget, when we were in Starbucks at the time, and my sister was just struggling to walk. She was literally like she was walking like a baby, just, taking their first steps, yes. Everything was just very, unsteady, exaggerated with her leg movements and stuff. And we were trying to figure out what was going on. We didn't really understand at first what this could be. So again, the more that hearing about this and learning about it, I'm like, what, I'm suspecting this might be the case. It was so bad at that time. I know that there was like a customer in Starbucks at the time.
Oh, yes.
And he actually seen how bad my sister was struggling being able to walk and her stability and stuff. He actually came by, to help her because it was at the point where my sister could barely stand on her own.
Yes.
Like as she was trying to stand, she was just so unsteady. It was like her legs were just like, they didn't even want to stay. They didn't want to stay like firmly underneath her. It was just like she was unable to bear like hardly any weight on her legs without being unsteady and really potentially falling. That's how bad it was. But anyways, he came and he actually helped us, help her to be able to regain some of her balance. But I know like after that experience, we had to just cut that trip short, and then we had to hurry up and get back to the car. But yeah, so it was a shocker, a surprise to all of us that she was going through this thing. Nobody in our family had been diagnosed with MS before. And a lot of times MS, people traditionally, it's always been thought to be a disease that affected middle-aged Caucasian women. So I think, a lot of people, even some doctors still have that preconceived notion that, oh, well, this is just a disease that affects this particular population. But no, it doesn't. It can affect anyone at any age. So that we're starting to see more people who are younger who are being affected by it, and who are Black, African American, people of other races, not just, Caucasians. I know that the MS is still primarily affects more women than men, but it can be found in men as well. It was just a shock to everybody, and we were relieved that she got the diagnosis, and we were able to find out what was going on, that she was able to start treatments for it, because that's what we were concerned about. We were concerned about her being able to regain her ability to be able to walk, unassisted, for her to be able to get that sense of independence back, because it had gotten really bad there for a while.
Yes. And that was really good. Thank you for sharing. That was really good. My sister, you all, just from day one, she has always been focused on my quality of life. She's been focused on my treatment. There were some days I'm like, Dijon, I don't feel like taking no treatment. She was like, no, we're not going to do that. She was like, no, Sierra, we're not going to do that. We're not going to even discuss it. Right. What matters is quality of life. And for right now, you need to be on some type of treatment. So, because like she was saying, she wants me to be able to regain strength in my muscles. She wants things to be restored and everything. She doesn't want me to... She wants me to continue to win in life. And I had many conversations with my sister, and I generally just talk about it in the book, but I don't go into depth. But there's many times where she's just encouraged me. Sometimes she's even shed a little tear. She cares so much because she really wanted me to be my best self. She really wanted me just to thrive and to go through and to get the resources and services that I needed. So going into the next question, for a sibling that has a sibling who's been diagnosed with like multiple sclerosis or chronic illness, what are some of the things that you think would be helpful for that sibling to keep in mind to help their sibling?
Yeah. I would say some of the things that would be helpful for people to keep in mind who have siblings that are struggling with things like MS or other chronic diseases is just to be there to support them, be available, be understanding, because sometimes they're going to have some days where they're not going to feel their best. And in those situations, you don't want to take that personally. Sometimes it might require you stepping back and just letting them have their time to grieve, their time to cope, because it is a big adjustment. Anytime somebody is diagnosed with a chronic illness, that's a major life change. Like you might have thought that your life was going to go in a certain way, in a certain direction, and then all of a sudden you have this new normal with this diagnosis, and now you're having to do things a little bit differently. That brings adjustments and that brings changes. And so I would just say be supportive, recognize that they're going to have some good days and some bad days, and just lend a listening ear, because a lot of times being available, to talk with them, give them words of encouragement. That's very important. I would also say pray as well. I know that, we're women of faith, so praying as well for your loved ones, encouraging them, being an encourager, giving them a kind word, giving them a scripture, something to keep them motivated and encouraged. Yeah.
And I think that's good. And I think what people got to understand is when your sibling or your mother, father, whoever in the family has been diagnosed with a chronic condition, the whole family has it. So it's not only Sierra with MS, my family is affected by it. So how would you say that your life was affected by me having MS?
Well, I would say that my life was affected in the sense that I am more mindful. I am more careful about things that could potentially exacerbate, your symptoms and stuff. It's more so the thing, just making sure that, for instance, when we're out, in extreme temperatures, people with MS, if they're too hot or too cold, that might exacerbate a symptom. Just being mindful of that type of thing. Being mindful sometimes that people who have MS, they do get tired, they can fatigue very easily. So it may not be that they don't want to do something. It's just that their body, at that point in time, they're so fatigued that may not be the right time for them to do something. And just realizing that they have their good days and their bad days. MS, I know Sierra says all the time, it's like an invisible disability, which is true, because it could be several days that they're fine, and then they might have that one day that comes up, and then all of a sudden they're fatigued, they're really tired, they may start having symptoms, neurological symptoms. So it's sort of a thing where you're just taking it one day at a time. But like she said, it's definitely a new normal as far as coping and helping a loved one who has this condition.
Yep, I completely agree. So that was just a quick little segment that I have with my sister. She is so sweet. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love her. I said, I love you. I told her, I said, can you do an interview for me? And she was nice enough to do it for me. Like I said, I really appreciate it. People who have siblings with a chronic illness, something like MS, definitely be encouraged. Know that you're not the only sibling that's having to go through that change. And I'm hoping that you'll be able to pick up some really good advice that my sister offered, just to encourage you and to inspire you to continue to do what you can for your sibling. Just take one day at a time. Sometimes you may have to give your sibling a little space so they can breathe and kind of process everything, because their life is changing, especially if, I would say, if they're young adults. Sometimes, teenagers are people who are the younger people, as well as older people as well. I know in my case, I was diagnosed as a young adult. Young adult, you have that life transition of when you're trying to find yourself and your career or your partner, and you're trying to put it all, but when that's interrupted by illness, it's a whole nother world that is explored. But I hope you got something from this. Leave a comment below. Tell my sister hey. Hey or hi. And I look forward to seeing you all in the next video, introducing you to another person who played a very important role in my MS journey. I love you all. This is Sierra, and this is my sister, Deej. And we are going to say, we want you to be your best self, and I will see you on the next video. Love you all. Bye-bye.